This wonderful series begins with a car accident involving a young man named Gao at the bottom of the abyss. Village girl Xing stares at the car from a distance from behind the bushes. After a while, Gao wakes up and stumbles on the rocky ground, barely moving away from the car. A young man standing a few meters away from the crash site doesn't notice Xing's approach and hits him with a rock. The incident takes place 9 hours before the terrible car accident. Gao, a gem hunter, is joined by his assistant, a salesman, Xiana, and Qin, his technician, as the trio stood on a sidewalk. There, Gao sees two old acquaintances. A short distance away, a car watched him intently, and he realized that they were hired thugs. Before Gao leaves, he bids Xiana and Qin good night. As she had foreseen, the men would also start their engines and follow her. Gao speeds up to escape their pursuit, causing the violent crash you see at the beginning. In the present, Gao looks back and finds himself in a primitive but strange village. Here, women rule, they hunt and provide food for their families, while men do housework and of course they take care of the children. Fathers guard the house and cook while mothers hunt. Women protect their husbands as guards and soldiers. The village is a secluded area completely cut off from the outside world. Because they were completely unaware of the technologies and possibilities of the 21st century. Gao is also shocked to learn that Xing is the queen of the tribe. At first, Gao doesn't believe him and thinks the villagers are telling the truth. Goani is outraged by what is happening here. He curses Xing and the rest of the women, which annoys the beautiful chief. Xing is angered by his words and decides to keep Gao in a wooden cage as punishment. Later Gao, they are really real, understands that they are primitive people and decides to return to his world as soon as possible. But, the clan's astrologers tell Yun He Gao that he cannot go far from the village without Xing's permission. After a while, Gao asks Xing to free him from the cage and take him to his car. Xing, although he looks at him with suspicion, he has to feel sorry for him. The two drive back to the scene of the accident. As Gao examines his car, he finds a crumpled piece of metal inside the car for a beating. Goa accidentally hits Xing in the head while twirling the stick. Xing faints. Gao has a golden opportunity to escape, and he grabs his bag and runs into the nearby forest. After a while, the car's fuel tank begins to leak, and soon Xing is trapped in the fire. A villager notices the fire and, in order to extinguish the fire, they rush to the scene and sprinkle water in a bucket. Gao hears the screams of the villagers and feels guilty for running away. He rushes to the scene after Xing and pours a bucket of water on him to get into the fire. Entering the ring of fire, he barely manages to get Xing out of there. The car explodes and they fall into a nearby pond, much to the relief of the villagers. In the next scene, Gao returns to the village and finds his phone in his backpack. While she is listening to a song, she catches Xing's attention. Xing tries to break it until he is scared of the strange device, but Gao assures him that it is harmless. She offers him his headphones and the two listen to music. After a while Xing falls asleep. Gao puts a sleeping Xing on the bed and then leaves the room. Searches the room carefully, hoping to find a map that can lead him back to his world. Gao suddenly finds the ruby stone and decides to ask Xing about it when he wakes up. The next morning, Xing tells her that the ruby is an inheritance from her dead mother. Greedy Gao offers her a few things in exchange for the ruby, such as a bowl of instant noodles, a novel, and even her phone. However, Xing explains that he cannot give up the pearl, it is precious to him. Gao then gets frustrated and decides to steal the pearl. That evening, Xing tells Gao to wait for him in the open field at night, so they could look at the stars together. Xing smiled as Gao said he would consider the offer and left. That night they lay on the grass and watched the starry sky. Suddenly, Xing climbed on top of Gao and tried to take off his clothes. Gao was surprised to see him doing this. He stops her and the two get into a heated argument. In the village, gazing at the stars meant having sex. And so, for some reason Xing gets angry and hits him. Suddenly, Gao runs to the village to escape, while Xing chases after him. Angry at Xing Gao, he imprisons him again when they return to the village. Gao explains to Xing that he didn't know the hidden meaning of the phrase and turns it on himself. He also says that people express their feelings in a romantic way wherever they are. Like confessing your love, when it snows. Xing and finally understood Gao from him. Asks for another chance. And invites him to spend the night in his cage. Hing leaves without a word. Back in the city, Hannah and Chin search desperately for Gao together. They check the road. Seeing the trail of the car turning down the cliff, Chin uses a drone to search the area. But the magnetic field causes the plane to break and Chin loses contact with the drone. When the two return home, Lian, the businesswoman who signed Gao's contract, is waiting. In the contract, Gao says that he has an obligation to meet with Lian every 15 days, and not to do so, 60 million will be fined. Until now, it had been 13 days since he disappeared, and Lian came to see him. Hannah lies that Gao has left for a trip to the mountains and will be back in a few days. Soon. Lian runs out of patience and gives her friends 48 hours to find Gao before the contract is broken. Back in the village, Xing leads Gao into the forest. Xing confesses his love for her and asks her to stand a little further. Asks her to marry him while pouring a bucket of chicken blood on her. It seems that Xing Gao misunderstood what he said yesterday. No wonder that's how he envisioned romance yesterday. Gao leaves, angered and disappointed by his actions, but is soon trapped. Gao asks Xing to let him out of the trap. However, Xing asks her to accept the wedding proposal. Unable to bear the pain, a defeated Gao eventually agrees. On the way back, Gao finds one of Chin's drone blades lying in the bushes. Seeing it, he says it's his. He notices that his friends are looking for him and decides to escape from the village as soon as possible. That night, Gao and Xing have a long talk and decide to get married the next day. Gao asks Xing about the countryside and joins him to find out that there is a hidden cave in the forest. He believes the cave is the only way out of the village and plans to use it to escape. Gao also learns that there is a wine cellar in the village and asks Xing to take him there. Xing agrees and heads to the central kitchen of the village. Gao throws sleeping pills into the wine barrel, prompting Xing. Later during the wedding, the villagers try to be with Gao, knowing that he will not return to his room. He gives her a pearl left by his mother as a wedding gift. Gao feels guilty, but still his profession was collecting rare stones. The next evening, the couple perform their wedding ceremony and observe the tribes. After a rare ceremony, Xing gets down on one knee and confesses his love to Gao. Gao agrees to be his wife. After that, the villagers sing in unison. And when the newlyweds dance, they sing a love song in unison. To end the celebration, Gao offers a toast and encourages the villagers to drink wine from their goblets. The unsuspecting locals finish drinking the sleeping pill, but Gao spills it when no one is watching. After some time, the villagers fall asleep. Gao takes the bag and leaves the village. He walks a long way through the forest and eventually reaches a cave that connects to the outside world. Determined, Gao enters the dark cave and continues walking without stopping. The next morning, he reaches the end of the cave and runs towards the light. Seeing the nearby road, he runs towards the peak, happy inside. Lian arrives at Gao's house with his men as the 48-hour period is up. Lian asks Hannah and Chin where Gao is, but they say they don't know where he is. Hearing this, Lian offers Hannah a contract that will transfer the ownership of the house to her, and tells her that he will give her extra money. Hannah refuses to sign the papers, but Lian tells her she has no choice. A businesswoman signals to her people. Her men take the two hostage, and Hannah is forced to sign a paper with her thumbprint. Fortunately, Gao arrives home in time to stop them. Chin uses the distraction of the people to swallow the signed contract. Gao talks to Lian. In the end, the businesswoman leaves the house and promises to stay in touch. After they leave, Gao freshens up and eats with his friends, where he has been for a few weeks. His friends ask. Because Gao wanted to protect the villagers from the outside world. Politely avoids their questions and is forced to lie to his friends. After eating, Gao shows them the ruby stone he got from Xing. The two are shocked to see the stone. And in disbelief because they haven't seen a ruby of this size in years. Finally, Gao shows the gem. And gives Hannah a soil sample from the village. All three that day. They go to the old people's home, that is, to Gao's uncle Wen. Wears a clown costume to entertain old people. In the next shot, the villagers wake up and search for Gao. Xing Gao is heartbroken by her disappearance and runs away with the gem. He decides to find Gao. A village astrologer. Yun Hai initially disapproves of her going to town. But when Xing pleads with him, Yun He leads Xing to the entrance of the cave. And before the princess leaves, she warns him to beware of otherworldly inhabitants. Xing looked out from the hill. Encounter a city full of cars. She falls in love with popular astrology social media manager Yi Tian. Xing's strange clothes and strange behavior startle him and take an interest in him. Offers to his company. Eat. Asks for her phone number. But a confused Xing shows him the card Gao left in the village. Yi finds a phone number from her and takes Gao to a nearby nursing home. At Xing's request, Yi takes him to the